On November 3rd, 1324, in Kilkenny City, Petronilla of Meath became the first woman to be burned at the stake for witchcraft in the British Isles. As maid to Dame Alice Kyteler, she was found guilty of heretical sorcery, having been tortured to elicit a confession. We can be thankful that the murmurs of witchcraft accusations have long faded from the streets of Kilkenny. The experiences of Kilkenny women in recent decades are far removed from the challenges faced by women of the 14th century. My name is Helena Byrne, and I'm a storyteller from the village of Ballyhale in South Kilkenny. I want to explore the experiences of older women across the county. What was their experience of growing up in Kilkenny? Did they enjoy their school days? What traditions and beliefs remain close to their hearts? It's time to give the women of Kilkenny the voice that Petronilla of Meath was not afforded. Welcome to Mná Feasa, a podcast series featuring the stories of dozens of older women from County Kilkenny. Produced by me, Helena Byrne, in collaboration with Kilkenny County Council Library Services and Kilkenny Heritage. In episode 1, we delve into the childhood experiences of women across the county. While nowadays parents are likely to bring their children to the local playground or park, in times gone by, children created their own playgrounds. Finding adventure in their surroundings, be it swimming in the River Nore in Thomastown, playing jackstones with friends in Graignamanagh, or even getting up to mischief at Ballyhale train station. Tell me, what was Graignamanagh like growing up as a child?
Very good, very nice. Yeah. I suppose when you don't realise it, you know, that it is idyllic, really, you know, in the village life. It is, you know, was
so
good.
Picturesque and I was talking to my father there this morning. He was saying that, you know, there used to be days when there were the boatmen. There would be a lot of trading on the river, all that sort
canals,
of thing. Yeah.
I had an uncle was on the canal, on the boats.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. They transported like the sugar beet and then they go up to Dublin with a load of stuff, and then they came back down, brought more provisions back down, probably Guinness back down the country, you know, on the boats. I think that finished in the late 1950s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your uncle was one of them?
Yeah. My father was a factory worker, my mother was a housewife. There was 10 of us in it.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Did you have a very large house for the 10 of you, or
no,
was it
a 3-bedroomed house, but they built on another 2 bedrooms on it. Look at people, children didn't have rooms of their own then. They were all bunked up together, you know.
And I suppose you always had somebody to play with then,
God, yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Were you all relatively close in age?
God, yeah.
What sort of mischief would you get up to then?
God, I thought we didn't do anything at all. Well, it was a river. We used to go down to the Moonshans. The Moonshans, yeah. It's a little river, yeah, and we'd play in the river, paddling. It's only a little stream.
Okay.
And we used to play.
Whereabouts is that now?
It's, if you go down the back there where there's a bridge going down the Lane, we call it, and you're going down towards Aldi, and there's a walkway into Aldi. There's a river there at the top of the lane. But sure, you couldn't go over it now, but that was all a big field when we were small. We used to go over there and we'd play in the river for hours. Well, it's only a stream.
It seemed like a river at the time, probably.
Yeah. We'd be playing it for hours, and they were playing with all the neighbours, all the young ones, and, you know.
Yeah.
You always kept yourself occupied.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the things we used to do, but you never say like what children say now, that they're bored. They're always bored. But they've nothing to play. Like, we were always out and about. Of course, we were out all the time. You know, you go out and play and you come back in for your dinner and your tea. But now you can't do that now with children now anyway. You know.
It's for safety and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But back then it was a sort of get out there now and don't come back until
you went out to play, and that was it.
Yeah.
It sure was safe then too, I suppose. Like, you know, no, compared to now.
Yeah. The regatta used to be a huge thing. Yeah. Would you remember that from years ago?
Yeah.
Would that have been you have been excited about it?
It's still going.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the same now as what it was years
No,
ago. I'm
it's
sure
not, no.
So what exactly would it entail?
Well, that's swimming and cut racing and
Greasy pole.
and
What?
A greasy pole.
A greasy pole?
Yeah, to walk out on.
A greasy pole? As in walking out
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
Okay. These are, I'll tell you, every day is a school day. A greasy pole. And would anybody just take part in this?
Well, anyone that was a swimmer.
Okay.
You know, because you'd definitely fall off of it. And then there was a rope across the river and you'd be going over, pulling at that. And that was, you want to be a swimmer too.
Okay. So it wasn't all just sophisticated rowing and all that. There was like fun games and things as well.
I was born and raised in Freshford. My father, he worked down in the stone quarry in Mullins, Three Castles for years. He used to cycle down, and sometimes he'd come home in the winter and he'd be drowned wet, you know. And Mammy, we didn't have, you know, tumble dryers now or anything like that. And I remember being very small. We had an open fire with those big hobs on it. You know, you could sit on the hob and look up the chimney and see the sky nearly. You know? So she'd be trying to get his clothes dry for the next morning and his boots, and off he'd go again. We played out on the street a lot because there was a lot of children up my way, you know, and we played in the sawmills in the night time, where all the saws were, and the huge trees that they were cutting, you know, for firewood. You know, there was the college, St. Joseph's Missionary College, and that was a boarding school as well. And I always remember they had lovely Frisian cows, black and white. And when you were young, if you're sent to go out and play, we might decide we'll go for a walk around the college. So you might go up around the college with your friends. You could be 5 or 6 or 7, you know. And you'd meet the priests, and I can still see them in their black cassocks, you know, like down to the ground, and this big red band around them. And they used to love to stop to talk to you and ask who you were. And then they'd be blessing you, you know, and saying, "You're great children, go on now, mind yourselves and go home safely, da 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 da."
Yeah.
And did you say you're from Venice?
I'm born in Thomastown.
Born in Thomastown.
Born in Thomastown,
okay.
in the Newtown Terrace, up the hill there. My father worked in the mill, and my mother came from Innisteague, as I said, and she was working in Pilsworths down in the island.
Pilsworths? What was
Pilsworths was the mill, the owners of the mill, and there was, you know, they had the children, and my mother was a housemaid and minding the children. It was Miss Nellie and Miss. They had Mr. Master and Miss, you know, all the. But so she met my father then. So yeah, so they had 3 children. I was in the middle. We'd be waiting for the darkness to come to go out and play under the light down the road, you know. Right. Yeah. But back in Thomastown then, there was no swimming pools or no, you know, we just went to the river. And there was 3 places in Thomastown. There was the diving board was the place where the experienced swimmers could go, and then there was the 3 trees, we called it, and up past the viaduct then was Conscience Island. That's where we learned to swim. But we used to go 2 and 3 times a day. The weather was so, they say in the song, summer days were warmer then. They definitely were, you know. But it was great. It was good childhood, you know. I think it was very innocent times.
Yeah, we had a great childhood. There were 8 in the family. We were 4 boys and 4 girls. When we were growing up, actually, we were very fortunate to have Mammy's mother living with us. And she saved us from an awful lot of correction. Because, yes, she was granny in the corner, and mother, actually, we called her. She was mother. And if Mum and Dad was going to correct us, we'd run behind, and she'd put out her 2 hands over us, and she'd say, "Stephen, you can't hit me." And she was now, not that he ever did. I can honest to God say I never got a slap from my dad, you know, which is a lovely thing. Can't say the same for Mum now. She was the
the disciplinarian.
Yeah, disciplinarian in our house. But you look, there has to be somebody. There has to be one, you know.
And your granny, like, what year would she have been born?
She was 96 when she died, and I was 16.
Right.
Yeah. She was a fabulous lady, and she was a lady, an absolute lady. I mean, looking back now, I could actually say that, you know, and I suppose that generation was that type of little gentry style as well. Now, my grandfather, who I never knew, was a very, very stern man, but a very honest man. Like, a spade was a spade with him, and that was it. There was no nonsense attached to him. And Granny she was actually from Moonteam, which is outside of Dungarvan, the County Kilkenny. And she was lovely. She was an absolute, as I said, she was an absolute lady to live with, really and truly.
Yeah.
You know.
And obviously very soft.
Very soft.
At least when you were small.
Very small. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And she had long white hair, which was the thing then. She had long white hair, and every so often we'd go to put a bun in Mother's hair, or we put a plait in Mother's hair, and God knows, I'd say, we stuck pins in her, I'd say, more times than we stuck them in the hair, and she never said a word to us. Never, ever, ever said a word. And there was never a cross word in the house with either Mammy, Daddy, or Mother, do you know?
Right.
But
that says a lot.
It's a huge thing. Well, I, as long as I can remember, and that was 16 years of it, well, we'll say 14 years of it, I never heard a crossword between any of the three of them.
God.
Yeah. No, she was a very pleasant lady.
Yeah.
You know.
When you were a child then, any particular games, would you go paddling?
Jackstones.
Jackstones?
Yeah.
Oh, was that where you try and...
Put up the 5 stones on your hand and then turn them over.
Oh, that's different now to what...
Yeah.
Explain again, what is it?
You have the 5 stones in your hand and you put them up and you get them in here.
Okay, right. I've never heard of that. Right, and what would you do then? Just try and hold them?
Yeah.
Okay, and whoever drops them loses, I suppose. Yeah. Right.
We lived in the barracks.
Okay,
and Dad was protective of us, and so was Mum. So said there was enough of us play with ourselves. So most of our playing was inviting others to come in, because we had the run of the place. It wasn't occupied at the time.
Oh,
so
right.
we had the complete run.
Your parents then, what did your parents do? You were living on Parliament Street.
Yeah.
Did they have a shop
around
there? Yeah. What shop did they have?
It was a pub, small pub.
They had a pub?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Classes was the name of it.
Classes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Is it still there?
There was no, it's a health food shop now, actually.
Oh, that's a
One extreme.
plot twist. Right. And were you roped into helping out in the pub then?
Oh, yeah, sometimes we would be. Oh, that's when we were small. Sometimes, kind of, yeah.
And tell me, what was your childhood like? That was your playground then, was Parliament Street?
Everywhere down the market yard and all around, and sort of ways.
Fabulous.
There was no shops or anything down the market yard that time. It was just all vacant, grass and trees at the end, We used to play down there. And down the canal, we used to go down there for walks when we were small, to play down there.
Brilliant.
There was no park at the time,
You made your own park.
Yeah.
Whatever was there.
Our own parks, yeah.
And did you have a lot of siblings, or was it just other neighbourhood children that you'd play
I had
with?
a brother and 2 sisters, and we had the cousins, lots of cousins and that as well,
Brilliant.
and friends and school friends and everything,
Excellent.
Yeah.
From what I gather, that it wasn't a case of the parents watching where you were or anything like that. You were kicked out the door in the morning. Don't come home until dinner time, basically.
You could be gone all day. You bring a bottle of tea maybe, and you might have sandwiches or you might have biscuits, and you'd be gone all day.
Right, yeah, the freedom. Freedom of it.
Definitely the
And
freedom.
another thing that they never done, when our houses were all built, it was people used to have the keys inside the letterbox, and they were never taken out. All you done was put in your hand and pull out the key and open the door, and they were never taken out of it. And then you'd be going borrowing a pinch of sugar or a bit of tea or some milk, or borrow a bicycle if you wanted to go to town.
They just using locked doors or anything.
No,
so you're
no,
not
no.
You wouldn't dream of locking it.
Didn't have anything to rub. For the most part.
That's right.
That'd help, I suppose,
I think of how I was brought up, and how I was brought up was definitely in a clan. We were so, the extended family was part and parcel of how you grew up. You know, the uncles who came dressed up, you know, they were all farmers, you know, but they came dressed up in the three-piece suits, you know, when they came visiting, you know, those with their pocket watches, you know, and their chains, you know, that kind of memory. And there was a solidity to that life, you know, there really was. You were immersed in this thing as a child, but you were actually, I was very lucky, I realised, you were very secure. You know, there were all these adults who seemed to know what they were doing, you know. Yeah. And there was a great sense of hospitality. You know, we went on holidays to our cousins. That's what we did. You know, we didn't go anywhere else. You know, but that's what you did. And my cousins in Clune and everywhere else. And every place you went had some interesting thing, you know. The cousins that were down in Glenmore, they had the train going by, and one of the neighbours was responsible for the gates. You know, there was these kind of interesting things that I didn't know about until I heard put it like that.
When the station was still there, we lived in the lodge, the Kiltarkburn Lodge. It was very close to the railway station, so as kids we were always played up around there, and we crossed the railway without thinking, and health and safety were new words. They weren't heard tell of at that stage. And we were up and down the steps with the signal cabin, and there was a man there by the name of Mick Henneberry. He was the signal man. Jimmy Manny was the second last station master, and they were all great fun, and we had great, and they never minded us. They never told us to go home, or which they should have had. And we had the tea up there with them, and we were always fascinated by blue paper. It was carbon paper, where you'd put it in between two sheets and you could write your name and to come out on another sheet, and we were fascinated by that. We got the odd spin then in the engines. They had to shunt, and we'd go down about half a mile off towards Carmel Harrington's, Lord mercy on her, and then to change tracks and back into the station. So I suppose we were called the railway kids.
Like where exactly on the train would you have been then?
On the engine.
On the engine?
Yeah, this was for the goods train.
Yeah. Good
God. They'd have to go up one road, as they used to call it, on the track, and then to get back into the railway store to deliver, say, they'd have cigarettes, kegs of beer, all the groceries for Cashy Long's shop and places like that. But they'd have to go up and come back another road, as they used to call it, another line. So they'd have to go up to Turn to come back. So yeah, we got the spins on it. Yeah, we knew a lot of them, and by name. We'd give them a hand throwing out the cartons of beet seed or whatever would be coming along. Yeah. There was a big water tower up there. All those buildings are gone from that side now.
In what way do you think Kilkenny or Ireland in general is different now for your granddaughters than it was for you when you're growing up?
You know, I think we were more innocent. Life, you know, society has changed, you know. I mean, in our time, I suppose, they're all dropping out of the bus and they're all picked up at the bus, I suppose parents are worried the way society's gone. You know, when I was, say, 15, 16, we used to play camogie, and we'd cycle to Glenmore, Cunmacow, Slieverue, Mullavat. You're talking about maybe 8 miles, and cycle there, and then we go to the dances sometimes, and we go home, especially Cunmacow, open air dancing in the summertime, and we could be coming up, my sister and myself, because the rest of my friends would be after dropping off different places, all on the bikes, and up along this very uproast, like the Kiltarkburn about, cycling home, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Mná Feasa is a podcast series featuring stories from older women in County Kilkenny. Produced by me, Helena Byrne, in collaboration with Kilkenny County Council Library Services and Kilkenny Heritage. This collaboration is kindly funded by commemorative initiatives under the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media. To find out more, visit helenabyrne.com.